Hi, welcome to the Middle East Teaching and Learning Conference. My name is Kate Hutchinson and I am the Vice Principal at Liwa International School for Girls. Joined with me today is my colleague Shakila Mohammed. She is the Assistant Principal and we're going to talk about digital assessments that we've used successfully for distance learning. So today's agenda, we'll start talking about our school and how it is a digital campus. Then we will go into a little bit about how we adapted to distance learning when it started in March this year. We will talk about our successes of using digital technology. And then we will talk a little bit about assessments using digital tools and what we found really successful. At the end, we'll talk a little bit about top tips that you could maybe use in your school. And then finally, there'll be a question and answer session. If you want to ask any questions, please ask via the question and answer section on the app and we will respond there. So just to talk through our school a little bit first, we are an all-girls school in Al Ain in the UAE. We are part of Liwa Education, so we're a group of 3 schools. We are a fairly new school. We opened in August 2016. At the moment, we have around 833 students on roll. The majority of our students are from the local community, so around 92% are Emirati. Therefore, the large majority of students have English as a second language, Arabic being their first language. We are very proud of ourselves. Within opening within 8 months, we were rated a Band A school by ADEC. We follow the American curriculum, so the Common Core Standards. Part of an assessment tool at our school is that we use NWEA map assessments, and they're done 3 times a year. So since we've opened in 2016, from the outset, we've always made sure that digital literacy is a big part of the curriculum. We use lots of digital tools and e-learning programs that are embedded throughout the curriculum. Some examples of these are our KG students learn how to code. We have a robotics curriculum and a Lego curriculum. We teach STEM and integrate digital components into that, such as green screen technology. So yeah, we make sure that as soon as our children come to us in KG1, they are digitally competent. An example of this would be when they complete their work independently, they will take a photo of it and upload it to Class Dojo so the teacher and their parents can see that. And these digital resources are integrated into every subject, including core subjects and also foundation subjects. So when we were told that we were going to distance learning back in March, we ensured that teachers did lesson recordings each day. The homeroom teachers made sure that they recorded themselves modeling a math concept, English concepts. We also made sure that every grade had a weekly overview. And part of this weekly overview would be the different subjects. There would always be a pastoral element to that, well-being element, maybe a yoga lesson. Within these overviews as well, we put in our assessments using the tools which we'll go on to a bit later. Obviously, it was a learning journey for every school. So we continually got feedback from staff, from students, from parents, and we adapted the overviews when we got this feedback. We also made sure that all stakeholders, including staff, teaching assistants, parents, had access to technology at home. So we did this through a number of ways, such as we had a hotline where we had a tech team that supported parents with internet connection maybe, or how to log into online platforms. So that was kind of back in March, preparing for distance learning. So we knew a big part of, term 3 learning, we would still have to assess children like we normally do when we're in school full time. Thankfully, we had a lot of these online platforms before we went to distance learning. So some were embedded practices already. We used the following kind of platforms that you can see on the screen. Some on a daily basis, some on a weekly basis, some a bit less frequent. We did this in a number of ways, such as paper-based worksheets where they uploaded the work to either ClassDojo or Google Classroom, or digitally recording their voices, or recording themselves completing a science experiment with a video and then uploading it. So now I'm going to let Miss Shakila take over, and she's going to run through more in depth about some of these online platforms.
Thank you, Kate. So as Kate mentioned, assessment was very continuous in our school, and AFL was at the forefront of teaching and learning. This particular platform that I'm talking about is Mentimeter. The teachers use this to create small quizzes, kind of like a poll. And when they conducted their live sessions, Zoom sessions, they would send out this link to the students, and the students would take about 5 seconds to immediately finish their quiz, and the teacher gets the report immediately, almost immediately. And this just gives her a way to, judge and gauge where the kids are at the start or the middle or at the end of the lesson. So she can adapt or adjust her lesson accordingly. The next platform that I'm going to talk about is Mastery Connect, which is basically an online assessment tool, which is linked to the American curriculum. Sorry about that. Which is linked to the American curriculum, the CCSS and the NGSS. In the middle of this year, we came up with some power standards, and we divided into each term. And to make it more meaningful to our girls, we linked them under one theme, and integrated it through all the subjects. Teachers use this to create and launch standards-aligned formative assessments to get instant insights into what our students know and they don't know. This enabled us to create targeted interventions, both with the teacher and with the teaching assistants, and also adjust the instructions at the moment or for the next lesson. The embedded grading tools in Mastery Connect saved us time and energy, as we did most of the assessments online, either using rubric or using small little MCQs. This is how we use Mastery Connect for conducting continuous formative assessments. We also use this tool for summative assessment, which is really important in this part of the world, because end of the year we need a grade to give to parents. We did have a grading guide for that. But through Mastery Connect, what we did is we also created a quiz with which enable multiple standards. We also tried to, as Kate mentioned, social and emotional needs of kids was very important. And we tried to keep this as simple as possible for the kids and as easy as possible. We'd give them continuous feedbacks, through and fro. It keeps coming and going, corrective measures, what went wrong, what can be done well, through questioning and through continuous dialogues between the teacher and the student. As per the assessment, the teacher would give out a code as on the screen, and the students would have 24 hours to complete the assessment. So there was a flexibility of time as well. As soon as the kids takes the assessment, a report is generated on Mastery Connect, as you can see on the screen. For each standard, as you can see for RF 2.3, almost all the kids have mastered the assessment. But for RF 2.4, there are few who have taken, and few who have, just a couple of them who are near mastery and redemption. This just gives them a really immediate idea of what's happening in that standard, if they have to stay put, or they have to move forward, or they have to adapt the teaching and learning. The next tool is ExactPath, which is extensively used in LISG, mainly because it's quite directly linked to the NWEA MAP assessment. And prepping our girls for MAP was very important, because they have to learn the vocabulary related to MAP assessments, the questions related to MAP assessment. Being a being ESL kids, they need a lot of practice with that. And Exact Path enabled us to do that. It would create learning paths for each girl, each student, and give them access to practice lessons, worksheets, and assessments in the area of development for each of one of them. We also use this platform extensively to assess and also provide intervention and challenges. Um, as you can see here, these are the reports generated. And these reports were very, very crucial in understanding each child's ability to understand the standards, the power standards that we have set for that term. Yep, that's about it. And I think I'll let Kate talk more about the reading assessment tool, RAS, kids that we use in our school.
Yeah, so with distance learning, we didn't want to lose that really important teaching and learning of hearing children read. You know, as you know, it's a real important part of guided reading, listening to children read on a weekly basis. Thankfully, some of our online platforms allow for us to do that. One example would be the RAS Kids Running Records. We kind of started this before distance learning came into place, where you know, children would record themselves and the teacher would listen to it later, and they would get a running record level. They would get a RAS Kids level. So then we made sure that all the grades were doing this during distance learning. And that really, really helped us with assessing where the children were in terms of their reading levels using the RAS Kids leveling system. So that was very, very helpful. Another form of assessments that we did were more informal ones, which kind of replicated some of the assessments, informal assessments that were already taking place. One example of this would be our writing assessments. So within a unit of English, we get the students to do a cold task at the start of the unit, and then a hot task at the end of that writing unit, so we can see their progress within that unit. So we did this during distance learning with the writing units that we taught, and teachers were able to give them ongoing feedback using either Google Classroom or ClassDojo. Another really helpful informative assessment that we did was where we got the children to record themselves, either explaining a science concept or recording themselves doing a science experiment. We could hear what vocabulary they were using. So again, that was a really helpful assessment tool. We continue to use some of the things that we were already using in class, such as mental maths, using those websites that help with the quick recall of multiplication tables and the number systems. And again, some other subject-based examples. As I mentioned, the science ones, they were a useful tool. We did some social studies, you know, video recordings where children would explain something in social studies and upload it as well. So those were really helpful tools.
Right. So now I'll talk through how we integrated all the building blocks to prepare us for the distance learning and have our assessments ongoing even while virtually teaching students. The first thing was preparing all the tools. We did have Mastery Connect, running records, and Exact Path with us, but we just needed some PD for teachers to help them use these online as well. So there were some mentoring and support systems in place because we had super users, teachers who are really good. They would share tips, create videos. It could be on the platform or it could be in one element of the platform, which is all kept in one folder for the teachers to access at any time. Second was to adapt the curriculum. As Kate mentioned, we did have a different overview for the distance learning, which was very strategically planned in such a way that we take care of not just the academic, but also the social and emotional needs of the children. It was really well balanced with the assessments being continuous. Either it could be on a single day, just like a task, and the end of it, they would finish a quiz, and that would be used as an assessment. So the kids would not know that that's an assessment or a quiz. It could be just like an assignment, a task that they're doing. Having grading rubrics in place for teachers to understand how they need to mark each activity, and also tracking sheets for participation, and also online formative assessment and summative assessments. The IT department were very helpful. They had a hotline for parental support. They would create training videos for parents. They would be talking to them on phones and guiding them through how to log in, give them their passwords. Our teaching assistants also help the IT department in this. Also, as a whole group, Liwa Education has a portal where the teacher and parent user guides are kept for all the online platforms. So the parents can click on there, any platform they want, they click, they have the supporting documents in there to guide them through the platform. Monitoring and tracking will be really important, and it was done quite often, weekly, fortnightly, and monthly. The senior leadership would check the Mastery Connect and the exact path reports weekly, and talk to the head of grades and analyze those reports, talk about what's going well, if they need support, what's not going well, what can we do, such sort of questions being asked. So this has been done very religiously by the senior leadership team. Motivation for both staff and student was very important. The students were motivated every week. We had a virtual assembly where we would give out learner of the week, reader of the week, mathematician of the week. Teachers would also send shout outs in the classroom, which was virtual, of course, and give out certificates every week to the students. The staff was also very well motivated, and they would get best exact path class or the teacher of the month. Preparing parents was essential, as you all know that this is Gulf, and Arabic is the first language of the parents. So we had to have all the videos, the introductory videos set up and translated in Arabic. We also had some videos which would talk more about why we're using Mastery Connect, how we use Mastery Connect, what is the importance of exact path, and how is it linked to the map preps and map assessments. And also the parents are provided with the breakdown of their grading rubrics, so they understand how much grading has been given to participation, how much for quiz. This just gives us a chance to give responsibility to the parents to just take responsibility of participating every day in their classes. Well, that's enough for me, and I'll leave Kate to share some really super tips so you can get on with the assessments in your virtual classrooms.
Thank you, Shakila. Yeah, just to finish off now, I just put together some kind of top tips that are really easy to implement. The first one would be to continue with that meaningful, constructive feedback when children upload their work. Before distance learning started, we appointed digital champions, both students and with staff. So within a classroom, there'd be a child in each classroom that would be kind of a super user with an online platform. So it wasn't always the responsibility of the teacher to help if a child got stuck with a particular program. When we go back to school in September, if it kind of follows a hybrid model, we hope to continue that. And then the next thing would be the buddy scheme. So when we go back to school, we want to continue a scheme where we had a child would sit with an adult and be the teacher of that online platform to teach the adult. So it really gave that child ownership and confidence to use that platform. Again, as we mentioned before, certificates and rewards, and really helping parents know how to access the certificates and rewards on the different platforms. So one example would be ExactPath that we use. It utilises some really good certificates once children have mastered skills. We made a video that was translated into Arabic of how parents can access those certificates and print them out at home, which was a real success during distance learning. As we've mentioned, we translate everything into Arabic, so it's easy for parents to access at home. During distance learning, and something that we'll continue to do, are our digital assemblies, where every week we have a pastoral element, but then we also have reminders about the online platforms to help with assessments. So the example there that you can see on the screen, we were, just kind of teaching children how to log on to Edmentum, reminding them how to get onto that platform and how to go to their specific areas of learning. Then, as we've mentioned before a little bit, a big part of our kind of monitoring and evaluation were how children participated in online and distance learning. So we give some responsibility to monitoring with the teaching assistants, where they would monitor children's participation on the online platforms. So every day they would see each class how long a child's logged on for. So that was really helpful. And then finally, we really believe that the most important part of distance learning is, of course, the well-being and pastoral side. So we didn't want to make any of these assessments stressful. We didn't want to put lots of pressure onto children while they were at home. So if we ever thought an assessment wasn't appropriate for a certain child, we wouldn't get them to do that assessment. So our student well-being was always the top priority while distance learning.
That's it from us. Thank you so much for attending.
Yeah, thank you. And as I mentioned at the start, if you do have any questions, please ask via the question and answer section on the app, and we will respond there. So thank you for listening to us today. Hopefully you have learned some tips that you can take.
Hopefully this is helpful to you. Yes. Thank you so much.